Here on ESPN Radio, ESPNU. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. You could be a part of the show on the Dr. Pepper call online at 888-SAY-ESPN. It's not college football season without the delicious taste of a nice cold Dr. Pepper. College football, it's a pepper thing. Joining us now, he's a two-time Super Bowl champion for the Pittsburgh Steelers, also played for the Detroit Lions. He is Charlie Batch, and he joins us here on Unsportsmanlike. Charlie, which one of your former teams do you feel better about right now, Detroit or Pittsburgh?
You put me on the spot already. I think ultimately, I love Detroit's offense right now. They're a lot better, way further ahead than what Pittsburgh is at this particular point. But either way, I don't have to make that decision until they play each other at the end of December. So that's going to be ultimately a tough choice for me.
Charlie, we've seen several backups thrust into duty early on in the season. Marcus Mariota, Carson Wentz, Jake Browning, Mac Jones, Tyrod Taylor, Jackson Dart now with the New York Giants. What is it like stepping in as a backup quarterback in the middle of the season when the team is still trying to find its way, find its identity?
Yeah, the toughest part is when you're a veteran guy, you know kind of the speed of the game, kind of what to expect. But when you're younger, it's better to be thrown in at the beginning of the season, only because you now went through training camp understanding your offense, and you didn't have to go multiple weeks by being the other team's quarterback, better yet, knowing your assignment. So this is a good space for at least Jackson Dart right now. But I think ultimately, either way, you got to be prepared, and nobody cares whether or not you practice or not. When your number's called, you better go out there and produce.
Charlie, Terry Bradshaw recently had some comments about the Steelers organization and this team in particular when he said that they're past being a contender. Do you agree with that sentiment, or do you think that this is a team that can actually contend for a Super Bowl?
Well, I mean, when you talk about the all-time great here in Pittsburgh, yeah, you got to respect his opinion because he's done it at the highest level. And I think ultimately when you see where this team is at, they don't have to be a finished product at this particular point. But when you just hear the sound bites that were coming out of training camp, head coach Mike Tomlin, he said, hey, this defense can be, Hall of Fame type defense, one of the tops of all times, but yet the numbers aren't adding up. So again, are they going to be a contender? Yes. At what level? I think ultimately that determines on how Aaron Rodgers and his offense is going to go.
We're talking with Charlie Batch, two-time Super Bowl champion, former Steeler, former Lion here on Unsportsmanlike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Who has more pressure on them to perform this year, Mike Tomlin or Aaron Rodgers?
I think Mike Tomlin more than anything. I mean, Aaron came out at the beginning of the year. He really hinted heavily that this was going to be his last year. And if that's the case, hey, he's playing loose. He wants to go out there and hopefully hoist that Lombardi trophy, something that he prevented the Steelers organization back in 2010. And that was part of that team losing Super Bowl 45. So now he has a chance right now to hopefully get them over the hump. And the reason why I say Mike Tomlin, because everybody's going to go back and say, hey, it's been a long time since he's won a playoff game. It's been TJ Watt has not won a playoff game, and Cam Hayward has went away ways without winning one. So a lot more pressure is going to be on Mike Tomlin because there are players on his team that haven't even won a playoff game yet.
Through the first three games, Charlie, which one concerns you more, the offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball for the Steelers?
Offensively, because defensively, they're not playing with all their pieces right now because you do have some people that are injured. The numbers are what they are. They're at the bottom of the league defensively. But offensively, they are young, question marks at the offensive line and question marks at the wide receiver number 2 position. And those things are all starting to come up because they can't get the running game going consistently, and you don't even have a wide receiver number 2 right now because the guy leading this team in receptions and yardage is actually your running back, Jaylen Warren. So they have to get that running game, the passing game going if they want people to respect that play action.
Charlie, let's go back to Mike Tomlin for a second. We know that he's an incredible coach. He extracts the best out of so many players. He's won at the highest level. But if you talk to some Steelers fans, they would say, well, that's a long time ago. And the Steelers organization doesn't necessarily feel the same as it once did. We're not as tough as we once were or as formidable as we once were. But if you talk to people in and around the Steelers organization, they don't feel that way about Mike Tomlin and the Steelers organization. It seems like he may have a lifetime appointment there. But do you think that that's the right approach? I know that the Steelers value consistency, but if years keep going by where you're just having a winning record and getting into the playoffs and not competing for a championship, do you think at some point there could be a change there?
Yeah, I don't think Mike Tomlin's going to go anywhere only because he has years left on his deal. So he'll be here a couple more years. But I think I understand the frustrations that fans have because nationally they give a lot more respect, but locally and really Steelers Nation, they become fed up and tired of not the lack of success that they've had in the playoffs. Because yes, the motto around here, the standard is the standard, but the Rooney standard is winning Lombardi trophies. And if you don't do that, it is a failed season here in Pittsburgh, and they don't even acknowledge you. They don't even acknowledge the accomplishment of getting to the Super Bowl, knowing how tough it is to get there. So when you know that and you enter the Steelers organization, there's only one goal and one goal at hand. As you pass those 6 Lombardi trophies when you enter the building, that is the standard.
Charlie, both Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh have Hall of Fame resumes. Yet one, we talk about the present in John Harbaugh. The other, we ask about whether or not he has a future in Mike Tomlin. Why is the reaction in your mind different to those two?
Well, I think the expectations are different. I mean, I know everybody wants to win a Super Bowl, but when you have a young organization like the Ravens versus a 90-plus organization like the Steelers, who is known of hoisting that Lombardi trophy, that's where people get frustrated at that particular point. So, based off where you're at, both of those head coaches, they're Hall of Famers, and it's just great to see both of them going against each other twice, in some cases 3 times a year. And I think ultimately, you just got to look at where everybody is at that particular point. And it's been a long time. It's been really, we're celebrating 20 years of Super Bowl 40, and in 2 more years, we'll be celebrating Super Bowl 43 with that team. So when you have that and really those type of things happening, it's just really a different fan base. But again, when you look at Baltimore, maybe this is the year right now.
Charlie, all that being said, I guess my question to you would be this. What does success look like for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year? Because it feels like we've had a hard time being able to define that. You mentioned that it's a championship organization. Mike Tomlin always talks about the standard being the standard, yet this team has had 5 straight one-and-dones in the postseason. So what exactly should we define as success for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year?
Yeah, I think, when the Steelers didn't come out and say this is a rebuilding year, I'm expecting them to win a Super Bowl because that's what they're selling us. And when you look at everything that they're doing, the trades that were made by General Manager Omar Khan and bringing Jalen Ramsey in here, you bring, Darius Slay. They wanted to bring those championship pedigree, even adding a Jack Sawyer to this defense. I know he won a championship in college, but now you're trying to get people to understand what that looks like by adding those pieces. Even Juan Thornhill won 2 Super Bowls down in Kansas City. So those type of conversations will continue to happen. So when you talk about what that looks like, when I mentioned Mike Tomlin, he used the words historic. That's what he used for this defense. So again, those type of things happen. Yes, they are 2-1, but they are no means a finished product at this particular point because they could easily be 1-2.
We're speaking with Charlie Batch, 2-time Super Bowl champion here on Unsportsmanlike. And you mentioned the record, Charlie, 2-1 right now. They're looking to advance to 3-1 this weekend versus the Minnesota Vikings, who are also 2-1. Neutral game in Dublin. Obviously, a lot of travel, a disruption in routine. What are you looking for in this matchup?
Yeah, it's going to be defensive ball game right now because when you look on that defensive side of the ball with the Minnesota Vikings, man, they are playing lights out. And when you know that that's happening and the struggles on the offensive side, it's going to be a battle at that particular point because the Carson Wentz is going to be dangerous. And I say that because typically in your second game that you're starting is a lot better than the first one because now you're up to speed, you get in a rhythm and understand what's happening with your receivers. So this is going to be something that I'm very interested in because both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively for the Steelers, they're both at the bottom of the league. And they can't do anything else about it. Yes, they added Derek Harmon on that defensive line. That's why you drafted him in the first round. But again, can they stop that running game of the Vikings? Because the Steelers defense has been leaking throughout the entire 2025 season at this particular point. But again, Ireland game, the fans are excited. The Rooney family understands how important it is. Mike Tomlin knows that. And they're going to try to go out there and do their best to get this victory this week.
Talking to Super Bowl champ Charlie Batch on Unsportsmanlike. And Charlie, I want to pivot and ask you about one of your other teams, the Detroit Lions, who demolished my Baltimore Ravens on Monday Night Football. Should the Lions be viewed as the primary challenger to the Philadelphia Eagles in their quest to get back to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, they should have been there 2 years ago. We understand, how their head coach plays, Dan Campbell, he goes for. If he just takes the points, they're playing in the Super Bowl that year. So when you ultimately come up short, this is why they went out and got Jared Goff. This guy has Super Bowl experience, but yet trying to get Detroit over the hump. They're excited, and they have a right to be excited because they are an exciting team to watch offensively specifically. So it's just one of those things that, man, what they did in Baltimore, I was surprised because, again, Baltimore sitting there at 1-2, or what are they? They're 0-2 at this point. I forget. What are they, Chris?
1-2.
1-2.
1-2. So, when you look, they feel like they should be 2-1 at this particular point. But yes, they lost to a Buffalo team, and then you lose to a Detroit team. Those are tough. But again, those are benchmarks, and I'll let you know, hey, we have a lot of work to do. But Detroit, they feel like this is their year, and they feel like it's an open season, especially if they can get past Green Bay in that second game.
Charlie, thank you so much for the time. Always appreciate the insight. We appreciate it. Thank you.